promise, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup Playoffs and what's happening. We got a great guest, current player, coming up in Ryan Strome, joining us on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon. But two significant announcements, happenings off the ice to teams not involved in the tournament. The Toronto Maple Leafs parting ways with their head coach, and the Vancouver Canucks set to name a general manager, John.
Not only a general manager, but co-presidents, Daren. What we're going to see is we're going to see Daniel and Henrik Sedin return to a higher profile with Vancouver, and Ryan Johnson be the guy in charge of hockey operations, with Jim Rutherford sliding into an advisor's role. I do expect the announcement of that on Thursday in Vancouver, and then we'll see what happens. As far as the Maple Leafs go, I just Craig Berube, with what was going on, and this is my personal opinion, with the fact that they got the first pick overall in the draft lottery, I think changed a lot. Because there was a reality they may not have even had a first round pick this year if it had dropped to 6 and the Bruins get it. But the question you have to ask internally in the organization is, do you want Craig Berube coaching Gavin McKenna or Ira Stenmark? Do you want that? And I don't think the answer would be yes. I don't think we've talked about this before. I don't think he's great with young players. And if they get somebody like a McKenna, it's going to have to be a proactive coach, a younger coach, I think, a more communicative coach, and someone then will now fit into John Chayka's vision of where analytics works and where this hockey club is going.
Yeah, I think the weight's a little too strong on the idea that he can't work with young players, but I do agree with, if you're going to start over, you're going to start over. And let's turn the page. You got a new general manager, you got a first overall pick, and you might as well have your guy in there as head coach. And there is a belief that managers should hold that one decision, that one bullet that they can use. But I'm for the proactiveness of what they've done.
Well, when you see what they have said publicly in the last 30 days. And the direction they're going, the one thing that didn't fit was Craig Berube. It just didn't fit. And now we sit and wait and figure out probably another 30 to 40 days with a concept of discussing things with Austin Matthews of what he wants to do and where he's going with this, and then see what happens on that front as well.
How long do you think it takes them to hire a new head coach? Quick turnaround?
I don't know.
Because if you've been thinking about it, you've also been thinking about potential candidates.
Yes, yeah, probably. I would think that John probably has a list of guys that he already thinks that he can get, whether they be veteran guys like a Bruce Cassidy, who seems to be he's replaced Pete DeBoer as the coach de jour right now, and whether it's somebody new and young and aggressive like David Carl, who has won another NCAA title, or are there some assistant coaches with veteran with veteran experience like a Jay Woodcraft, who's coaching in the Vegas-Anaheim series for the Ducks? Does he fit the bill for what they're doing? John Chayka would not have a list. Even if he had decided to keep Berube, that's just a reality.
He would have had a list?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. He would have had a list. That was a double negative, not.
Stromer's here, but I got a couple more thoughts on Berube and Toronto and what's going on in Vancouver. We'll get to that after we chat with the current Calgary Flame. Stromer. Coming up on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Stromer stuff. His name is Ryan Strome of the Calgary Flames on 100% Hockey.
Stromesy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Face-Off Inside the NHL returns, taking you deeper behind the scenes than ever before. See it all from the star-studded Four Nations Face-Off tournament.
Us against the world, boys.
To the adrenaline of the Stanley Cup Playoffs.
I'm scared of you guys.
With candid interviews and backstage access, experience the sacrifice, the rivalries, and the determination that define NHL greatness.
Just when I thought last year couldn't be topped, here we are.
A new season of Face Off inside the NHL. Watch now only on Prime Video.
Wanted to get into some of the talk that's happening on the ice around the Stanley Cup playoffs. So Ryan Strome's joining us here on 100% Hockey. You did some TV last week. What was that like?
It was good. I really enjoyed it, actually. It was my first kind of experience doing that stuff. And I really liked it. I didn't know what to expect. I've never really been in front of the cameras like that. I've kind of just done interviews or whatever, like beside the rink or some podcasts, but it was a completely new experience for me, but I really enjoyed it. I more than I thought I would, honestly.
Yeah. You sound surprised.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I am. I feel like when I was thinking about it on the way home, flying back to California, I was like, I've never really done anything other than hockey. So I know it's still hockey, but you're stepping into a different kind of arena and different set of challenges and different set of, different skill sets. So I don't know. I think I was maybe pleasantly surprised with my enjoyment level and just being able to kind of, do something different. I think as hockey players, we're, so ingrained in going to the gym and going to practice and going to the rink and, and we never I was thinking about it. I go, I really haven't done that much else. So it was fun though. I really enjoyed it and the team there was great. And at the end of the day, it is, it's something different, but it is still just talking hockey. So it's not that far out of the realm of normal. So it was fun. Maybe
a new appreciation for the amount of work that actually goes on to get pictures and sound on a television set.
Totally. 100%. I think I've always had a great appreciation as a kid. I grew up literally just sitting in front of the TV, watching Sportsnet and TSN highlights over and over again from, 7:30 on through the whole day, waiting for the new set of highlights to come on in the night, basically. But just seeing the process of it was really, really awesome. And for me, one of my favorite parts about it was, being able to shape the conversation to what I saw. I thought that was really neat. You're sitting in the green room and you're watching the game and you have the producers there and you're kind of just talking through your thoughts and you're able to kind of, talk to the viewers about what you see and the way you see the game. And I thought that was really cool. I didn't know how the analysts had pretty much full control of what they want to talk about. And I thought that was the coolest part for me, was able to portray my thoughts and the way I see the game, not kind of the stereotypical hockey thoughts through the game or the commentary. It's really what you see. And for me, that was the coolest part, I think.
Did you find yourself?
Go ahead, John.
No, did you find yourself? Because it's easy to fall back into those typical slogans of what you hear and see on television. You have to try, in order to be unique, you really have to think about what you say. Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect blend. The more I thought about it on the way home after it was kind of done was, hockey's pretty much all that I know. And, I would like to think I'm pretty smart at it. And then, portraying my thoughts is something that I think I've always been good at, whether it's been in interviews or, like I mentioned, podcasts, or even just talking with the guys in the plane. I really found that sitting with, Kevin and Kelly in the green room and Ron was honestly just sitting at the card table on the plane or, sitting in the hotel rooms. After, it's funny. I used to, John, you'll appreciate this. We always used to when we get to the hotel late, we'd have a hot stove, we'd call it. So, in reference to the satellite hot stove. So we'd always sure.
say, let's just stove it up. And we just kind of, shoot the breeze and, maybe order a few beers and just talk hockey usually. And so I feel like it was very similar to that, but obviously once the cameras are rolling, you got to portray your thoughts, but talking hockey and just, the kind of that fire stove talk or the conversation is what I love. And, so I found it very similar to that.
Well, it was just as a thought, but I mean, you grew up in a hockey house. Was it the dinner table discussion every night at your house about hockey, whether it was Dylan or Matthew and your mom and dad? Yeah, it was everything. It was the whole time. It was highlights. It's what's going on in our games. It was Rock'em Sock'em videos. It was highlights. It was everything. And I mentioned this on the broadcast, and I was grateful that Ron gave me the platform to kind of say my piece. But we grew up
looking forward to Saturday night games, and we were allowed to watch Coach's Corner and Ron and Don, and that was it. After that, we had to go to bed and we had to listen to the game on the radio. And I think as a kid, like the more I thought about it growing up, like even listening to the games on the radio, how great it is for the kids, like my imagination, and trying to figure out what was actually going on in the play and building that in my head. And for me, like sports has just been such a big part of our life, especially hockey and Hockey Night in Canada. So like it felt like when I was there, it was so surreal, and it was honestly just like it was my childhood. And I'm like, I've watched this show like thousands of times, and I've, played this over my head, and I've pretended I'm the players, and I've pretended I'm the interviewers, and I've been the player, and now I'm the interviewer. So it's like, it was just a full circle moment. And like I said, I can't understand. Like we used to wake up 7:30, rush to the TV, throw on channel 22. And it was like, what happened last night when we went to bed? What did we miss? And how many times can we watch this before we go to school? Then we get home from school and it'd be on again. So I feel like our whole life has been revolved around just watching sports, and to be the one that's able to, join someone's living room and maybe the way I see the game can rub off on somebody it was a surreal moment, and, something I don't take for granted, because for me, that was my whole childhood growing up. And that was what our whole family was built around 100%.
Hope we delivered those highlights properly for you back in the day.
They were pretty good. I got to be honest.
The interesting part, and I worked with Alec Martinez this year. He was first time being in the business. And what always jumps out at me is how you guys can see the simple plays, but the fans don't see the simple plays so much. And that's the important part and the valuable aspect of being a current player for fresh off the ice.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I tried to make it a few times with just little plays I saw and stuff. And even sometimes for us, I think we overlook it. But if you watch the best players in the world, obviously McDavid pops off the page, and, Leo Carlson can jump off the page and they can go end to end. But a lot of times it's just the simple, like great plays. Like if you watch, Nikita Kucherov, or you watch Leon Draisaitl, it's just the great little plays that they make over and over and over again. And I think sometimes, and I've noticed this with young players and kids, that maybe sometimes like guys get all enamored with spinoramas and dangling and all this stuff. But if you watch the best players, it's the little things, and it's the skill plays they make in traffic. And, right now we're watching the playoff games. It's like, well, who's able to make the best plays in a playoff game where it's a little more chaotic? It's a little bit more, there's more contact, there's more randomness, the puck's bouncing around, and it's all the little things that add up. And I think of a guy like Nick Suzuki, and people like watch him, and you're not really like overly wowed by what he does. But if you actually just like focus in on what he doesn't make many bad plays. Every time he touches the puck, it's a positive play. He always does the simple things right. And those things add up over time. And that's what coaches loved it. They're kind of a coach's dream, they call it. And I do think that oftentimes it's the little things that are the big things, and the best players in the world are so good at those little things, and they practice them over and over again. So for me to be able to portray my thoughts and kind of, show that I think it's very important, because, people get enamored with like the highlight of the night and the fancy goals, but it's, oftentimes it's the little plays over and over again that add up, and that often make the play. I was watching the Ducks in Vegas game last night, and, the Ducks tying goal and the overtime goal, the puck didn't get out of the blue line. And it's kind of just a simple thing, but when you add those things up in the playoffs, that's kind of what shows up on wins and losses. And I think for people at home, sometimes that's where we're able to come in. Like Alec Martinez has done a really great job with his video breakdowns. And I love hockey, and I love being able to show that to fans.
Are you a subscriber to the AM Rewind?
I'm not a subscriber, but I've seen the Twitter posts or whatever.
Okay. We'll have to get you on there.
I try to limit my Twitter use to my iPad as much as I can, so I don't, I'm not sucked into the realm of my phone so much. But when I go on there, the hockey algorithm is pretty strong. So I get all the latest news coming up. It eats you up pretty good. I got to be honest.
I couldn't help but smile when you talked about the younger players dangling and spinorama, and your former teammate Trevor Zegras had to learn this, and he's a much better player for it playing in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I did a little segment on him, and I kind of talked about him a little bit, and I don't think you ever want to take out the creativity and the fun in the game or anything like that, but I do think that like you would even probably ask him, like his maturity as a player has gone through the roof. And sometimes it takes a second home to kind of do that. Sometimes it takes, some school of hard knocks, you want to call it a little bit, but like I thought he was their best player in the series against Carolina, and that's a really tough team to play against. Like whether it was results driven or not, I think that he showed, especially in that game 3, he was like hungry to try to make plays. He was emotional. He was invested in the game, and he scored a great goal, like sticking one under the bar. And I don't think you ever want to take a player's creativity away or skill or anything like that, but I do think that he's probably learned what it takes to win. And now that he's been through it and he's seen Carolina up close, he goes, like, I bet you his offseason is going to look a little bit different, knowing what he has to do to be better and to push the team over the top.
You would change your training. You would change your training based on an experience like that, facing somebody.
I remember the first time I went to the playoffs. I was with the Islanders and we played Washington. We lost in Game 7, and there was like the Tom Wilson was on the 4th line of Washington back in the day. And we had like Matt Martin and Zegras, and Clutterbuck was kind of the line there. And it was a vicious series. And I remember like leaving that series being like, wow, like it's a different game. Like you really see what it takes. And, there's sometimes there's no puck out there. It's just physicality. It's the simple plays. It's getting the red line. It's getting the puck in deep. And I think for a lot of players, the first time they go through that, it's a bit of an eye-opening experience. And I know that every time since that I got to go to the playoffs, I felt a little bit more comfortable knowing what to expect. So I think that it's not that, like I said, it's not that you have to take away the skill or the creativity out of the game, but it's a different type of hockey in the playoffs, and it's a different brand and different things work. And I think the only way to learn that is through experience.
Just to finish up on Zegras, was he always that emotional? Because we got a real sense of his emotions and his passion in his discussions with Rick Tocchet.
You know what? I think he was emotional in a different way. And I think that he's learned to channel it into like the team. I think that everything that him and Tocchet seemed to be going back and forth with was like a play that they saw during the game, or how to like make a play happen, or why they're not succeeding, why they can't win. I don't think it was out of selfishness or individual stuff. I think it was all about the team. And I think that in the past, he might have gotten frustrated with himself, or he might have gotten frustrated with the team. And I think for me, I saw a player that like, it looked to me like more of a leadership. Like that's the way I saw it, is like, he wants the best for the group. They want to win Game 3. That was the series, that game. And I think for him, he wanted a power play. He wanted things done. He wanted to get the puck in a better spot. And I thought he was great in the series. I thought as it went on, he got better. I thought the overtime in Game 2 was the turning point for him in the series. And he really started to, find his game. And I'm really proud of him. I thought he had a great year. And it's tough when you go to your second team and you get traded and a team doesn't want you and you get shipped out. And, really happy for him to find his footing. And, he's a good kid. He works hard, and I'm sure there was a great learning experience for him along the way too this year.
What do you think of Carolina right now?
Well, where do you start? I think that they've been building for this moment for a long time. It's funny, in the 2010s, I always used to say the teams that I found won were the teams that have failed so many times. You could look at St. Louis, you could look at Washington, and they kind of just kept tinkering around the edges. They didn't blow up the core, none of those teams. I guess you could throw Pittsburgh in there a little bit. They kind of tinkered around and they found it again. And I feel like Carolina is kind of the same thing. They've kind of been there for so long and they haven't been able to get over the hump. And I feel like they've just kind of tinkered with the outside edges. They haven't let the outside noise kind of creep in and blow things up and reevaluate everything. And I think now they just look like a machine-like team. And, I think that Ottawa is no joke as a team. And I think that they, the way that they've been business-like through their first 8 games has been pretty impressive. And I'm sure that they love the fact that Montreal and Buffalo are going to a 5th game and at least a 6th game, and they're going to beat each other up a little bit. And both those teams are going to be really emotionally drained, and they're going to be ready to go. I mean, I don't see a world that it's not them in the finals in 4 to 5 games, like the way that they look. I mean, I don't want to understate how impressive Buffalo and Montreal have been, but those teams are like, Montreal is now going through their 2nd grueling series in a row, and Buffalo is a first time in this moment, and Carolina just seems like they're destined for it to be their year, and good for them. And I think, health is a big part of it for them too. I think they seem that they're healthy. All their goalies are healthy, and they've been through these heartbreaks in the past. And it seems like now they've just, they're kind of just free flowing and they know what to expect. And never too high, never too low. And I listened to Rob Brindamore do an interview yesterday, and he said, like, just talking about how prepared their group is and how from the puck drop they played the same way through the full 60 minutes. And to me, that's a scary sign when that team is rolling on all cylinders. They're not very fun to play against, and it seems like they've got a ton of confidence in the way they play right now.
I can't believe it's been 16 years since Tyler in the draft, and Taylor's still going. How old would you have been in like 2010?
So I was actually at the draft because my agency brought me to the draft the year before I got drafted to kind of see the whole experience, see what it's like. So I remember being in LA for that draft, and it was Taylor and Tyler and all that stuff. And, it's funny. I got to become close with Taylor Hall the last couple of years through living in Toronto, and what a great guy and what a great professional. And I'm so happy for him to found like a home in Carolina because, he left Arizona and he went to Buffalo, and then he had a 1-year deal, and then he kind of was in Boston, and then Boston shipped him to Chicago. And it's like, for a player that's won a Hart Trophy and has had a career like he has, it's kind of crazy how much he's bounced around. And as a guy that's just able to kind of score and, put up points and all that stuff, it's funny how it's kind of taken, a couple of stops along the way for him to find a great home in Carolina. And I know for him, there's been a ton of maturity on his side of it. Like I think he said to me earlier in the year that he started the year on the 4th line, and he's like, I'm going to work my way up. We're on a great team. I'm in a good situation. My family likes it here. It's a great culture. And I think that's a ton of maturity on his aspect to realize a good fit when he sees one. And I said this on Hockey Night Canada. I don't know if 23, and this isn't a knock on him because we're all the same. I don't think a 23-year-old player would have thought the same way. And I think that it shows a lot about him and his character. And, I know he talked about the culture in Carolina, but it takes the right pieces to bring in and fit. And the way he plays, his skating and his ability, and also probably the selflessness at this point in his career, I think his buy-in is probably the best it's ever been, and good for him. He deserves it. And he fits in great in that system.
You want to see somebody not liking it? You see when I step on John and ask 2 questions in a row. That like there's no maturity on that front. Let's take a break. We'll come back more with Ryan Strome on 100% Hockey. I cut him out. I froze him out again.
Maybe I can ask a question. Maybe I can ask a question once too.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
Okay, you tuned me in during the commercial break. Go ahead, John.
No, it's your show.
So you're watching the Ducks. You're and Vegas. Emotionally, what's that like for you?
Good question. It's weird. I would say though that for whatever reason, it's the least bitter that I've ever been for my former teams that I've been on. Like usually when you watch your former teams, you're kind of like, yeah, you're kind of bitter and it sucks, whatever. Like, I feel like other than a handful of individuals, I'm very happy for everybody. Like, I feel like I had a nice little part in kind of helping that team get to where they are. And, on a personal level, like, a lot of those guys and me, I think we're still really close. And, they come by and some of the younger guys come by and they pop in for dinner and they see the kids and stuff like that. And I think for me, that was kind of always my job here, was to help these guys out and get the team to a different point. And, it definitely sucks that I'm not playing. Like I feel, you put so much work and effort into it on and off the ice to build a culture and an environment and to, turn the team around. I mean, it was pretty dark days for a couple of years and you want to see it through, but at the end of the day, being hurt this year and being scratched so much, like I felt, I didn't feel as much a part of the team this year as I had in the years past. So when I left, it didn't really feel like it felt like it was just time. And, the other teams I was on, it didn't feel like it was time, but this year it just totally felt like it was time to move on. And so it makes it a little bit different watching. You're not as like kind of bitter. I think it was more mutual. And, I was kind of the one that kind of thought it was time and they kind of agreed. So, it's different and probably a little bit of maturity on my part too. I think when you're younger, you're kind of like, I don't want them to succeed, but all these young guys, they work so hard. I've seen up close and personal, where they entered the league and where they are now. And you're just happy for their success.
Have you been to games in the playoffs?
Nope. I've got a bunch of buddies in California here that have tried to get me to come to the games. I'm like, absolutely not. I would never want to. I wouldn't mind going to the games as a fan, but I would never want someone to see me there and make it about me. It's not about me. It's about the players. It's about the fans that have struggled for so many years and watched some of the dog days. And, I would never want it to be about me. And I like watching at home. And now that I'm a part-time analyst, I can break down the TV. So
it's probably just as an aside, it's probably tougher on your wife than it is you, because all of her friends, their husbands are still playing. That's where we don't understand outside the game. We don't understand how families are involved when you're with a team. Totally.
She actually, it's funny. She's 100%. Like the first playoff game, she was just like so disappointed because I know how much we had all the guys over for Thanksgiving, and, you host like the women's do a little cookie thing and they have a pajama wine night and watch the game. And she was a big part in hosting a lot of that stuff. And, for her, it kind of sucked to see the girls wearing the playoff jackets and, being all excited and, going to the games. And, she's so great that, she loved bringing the kids to the games, but in the playoffs, it's just so different. And for her, I know that she wishes she was a part of that, but in the same token, she was the first one that said I should look for a different opportunity and I should absolutely pursue it, because she saw how frustrating it was for me and unhappy I was. And so at the same token, she deserves a lot of the credit. So the more I talk about this, I probably have to get her a little postseason gift here or something to kind of thank her for letting me go for 6 weeks to go to Calgary and then also do a week in Toronto on Hockey Night Canada. So I think I'm up for a nice little gift here. The more that I talk myself into a hole here.
When you got traded, a couple of people I talked to in and around the Ducks were saying, "Whoa, there's gonna be a real challenge," because Strome used to always host everything. The barbecues were always at the Stromes. Everything was always at the Stromes. So that's in your DNA of being a leader, right?
Yeah, you know what, it really is. And I think that it's no different than what older guys did for me when I entered the league. I remember Josh Bailey and Cal Clutterbuck and John Tavares and Matt Molson, all these guys would have me over and, bring me over, and they have kids. And I'm going I'm playing with their kids. And I go, what's going on here? I just came from junior hockey, whatever. And I think you just try to pass that down, and that's all it is. And that's the great culture of hockey. And, I know for a fact, and I've seen it, that the young guys here have taken a step in that. I remember Jackson Lacombe had a bunch of the boys over for football on Sunday, and they did a big barbecue and stuff like that. And it's little things like that go a long way in creating a great culture off the ice and a great environment. And the closer you are off the ice, the closer you are on the ice. So, I'm proud of those guys to where they've become. I remember seeing a young Jackson Lacombe come in the league, and he wore his Minnesota Gopher shirt and his goofy curly hair. And now he's getting a nice haircut and he's wearing some nicer clothes and he's got the boys over for dinner. And, I think it's all part of the culture of hockey. And I was very fortunate to have guys pass that down to me. And that's all you try to do is pass the message along to the next generation. And our game is very lucky that we have that fabric in it.
And I would assume that's a big part of your role with the Flames.
For sure. I think you just try to be a good teammate. I think at the end of the day, I've had a lot of ups and downs and highs and lows, and you try to be relatable to that, and you try to pass it down. I mean, for example, Zane Parekh at the end of the year this year, it was 15 games left. We were kind of out of it. It was kind of okay, well, we're done. What are we going to do with the last 15 games here? And I kind of just told him, I said, one day you're going to wish you had these 15 games back in your career. I remember having those kind of the garbage games in the end of my first year. And it's a great opportunity for you to grow as a player. And there's something that you can get out of these games. And I think that, I don't think he listened to me, but I think if you look at his play, that he played great. And I think that he goes into the offseason feeling a little bit better about his game. And I think he grew a ton as a player. So you never want to waste those moments. And, as an older guy that's been through a lot, I think you can always try to find things to pass down and share with guys, and whether it's good and bad. And I think you just try to be relatable. It's a tough league. It's a tough business. A lot of times you go from having a billet parent or a mom and dad in your year in junior or college, and you have your agent, to go to the NHL. And sometimes it can feel a little lonely at times. And you have good and bad nights, and the bad nights feel really bad and the good nights feel really good. And you just try to be there for guys in between.
Be the analyst then on this Vegas-Anaheim series. I didn't think the Ducks would be able to defend as well as they have. That's really impressed me. What's allowed Vegas, though, to have this 3-2 series lead?
It's been tight. I think it's just been timely scoring. I think that Vegas just plays such a structured game. And for me, I see when Vegas gets the puck in the O-zone, I think it gives Anaheim some trouble. I think, if Vegas opens it up off the rush and goes back and forth, I think that's where Anaheim can kind of get their speed and get their attempts and get their confidence. But I think for Vegas, it's been a great power play and it's been great systems and structure. And when they're able to sustain zone time, they have a big, strong team. I think it kind of wears the Ducks down that they can't get into that free flowing back and forth game. But in all honesty, I think that the Ducks have looked really good. I think that it could easily be 3-2 for either team. And, I think you could argue that the Ducks should be winning the series, honestly. And good for them, a young team that's up and coming. I think they're playing with house money, no pun intended, to the Vegas series, but they look good. They look confident. Those young guys are ready to play. I mean, Becca Seneca's got goals in 4 straight games. The guy could be playing in junior hockey right now. It's unbelievable. And you see the maturity of these young guys, and good for them. They deserve it. Like I said, I know that the staff there is awesome, and the management's great, and the players. I know they put a lot into it the last couple of years to build up to this. And I don't think that they expected to maybe be as far ahead as they are, but good for them for being where they're at.
It's funny. There's certain players you can see that are feeling it that night, and it's not just last night. But boy, Mitch Marner, he leaves a trail of confidence behind him. Yeah, he looks great. And it's funny, like being from Toronto, I've watched so much of the Leafs, and you see some of the slander he took, and really, if you think about it, they pretty much had the same team this year, just minus him. They didn't make the playoffs. So I think sometimes you don't realize what you got till it's gone a little bit, and you don't realize whatever. And unfortunately, the Leafs ran into Boston, Tampa, and Florida, and those teams, I think if you put the Leafs against a bunch of other teams, or the seedings match up differently, maybe the story's a little bit different in Toronto. And for him, I know that he's been so good. Like when he's on the ice, he makes such a difference in the playoffs so far. And I've watched a lot of their games, especially being on the West Coast. It's just my kids are in bed, so I get to watch a lot of the Pacific games. And he's been so good, and he's been able to slot in behind Eichel. And maybe that's a little bit of a difference where, in Toronto, he was kind of with Matthews, and maybe they're focused on so much and whatever, but he kind of plays on that second line without Eichel, and he drives the play so good. And he's been so confident with the puck. It seems like the puck's kind of bouncing and finding him too. So it's a little bit of both, and good for him for having success. He deserves it. And I know that his family and some of the stuff he went through is no player deserves that, no matter what happens in the playoffs. I know some of that stuff's not what hockey is about. And so good for him for finding some success in Vegas.
This is not a knock at Greg Cronin, but what difference does Q make to this situation?
I just think, I think he's empowered the young guys so much. I think if you look at Beckett and Leo and Cutter, they're allowed to make mistakes, and he's given them the reins of the team. It's not
Mason McTavish isn't.
Mason McTavish isn't, but that's a story for a different day, I think. But you know what? At the same token, I thought Mason was one of their best players last night. So good for him for having that inner belief and that confidence to come back in a tough situation and trust his abilities and play. But I think he's empowered those guys. He's given them the keys of the team, and not only that, I think it goes hand in hand. I think those guys have earned the keys of the team. I think if you look at the way they play and you look at how good they are, yes, they've been given the opportunity, but no one can argue with the fact that they don't deserve it based on the way they've been playing. So I think it goes hand in hand that those guys were all ready to take a step, and they were kind of handed it at the perfect time. I think that the switch with coaching this summer was the absolutely perfect time. I think you could argue that people maybe thought outside that Cronin could have stayed for another year, but I think internally, you ask the guys, Lacombe, Cutter, Leo Carlson, they were ready to take that next step, and you could just feel it. And it seems like they've kind of just hit that speed ramp all at the same time. And I think coaching is a big part of that.
When was the last ball hockey game with the McLeods?
I'm not allowed to play in them. I've been aged out, I think. No, they've kind of changed to golf a little bit, I guess, now that they've gotten a little older. I would say the ball hockey's been a handful of years, that's for sure. But I was always a little older. So I was 4 and 6 years older than all those guys. So I never really participated as much. I was kind of more just the big brother figure that watched them play. But I remember growing up with them. They used to live just like Applewood Forest, and Rich McLeod, their dad, had a great rink in the backyard. I remember being out there. I was a little older, so I was a little bit better than them or whatever. But I remember watching them all skate and the competitiveness, and my brothers and them trying to just kill each other. And it's unreal, because I talk about, I've talked about Hockey Night in Canada and watching sports, but the fabric of the game is those little moments. And, you can do hockey schools, you can do all these things, but the backyard rink is where I watched all those kids grow up, and to see, Ryan in the playoffs and to see a bunch of the families have success is just awesome. And, those are moments that you look back on them and you realize, all these parents always ask me, what does my kid have to do to get to the NHL or whatever? And I go, just enjoy these little moments, because I guarantee you every NHL player wishes they had all those moments back, the minor hockey, the road hockey, the pond hockey. And it's so great to see. And you smile thinking about some of those fun stories from back in the day.
It's amazing that people think that there's a strategy to get your kid to the NHL. Like, that's the part that blows me away all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the strategy for us was road hockey, mini sticks, roller hockey, watch hockey on TV, listen to hockey on the radio. And then in the summertime, play lacrosse, play a different sport, be an athlete, be competitive. And I think doing it that way, it always just made us love it. We did it out of pure joy, not because, our parents could afford to drive us to hockey school. We literally played because we absolutely loved it, and there was nothing else we would have rather done. So, it's fun. It's fun to look back on some of those moments. And I know the landscape has changed a little bit in minor hockey, but I truly believe that those are the real fabric of what makes kids successful and gets you to the next level.
Well, Ryan, here's the one thing I can tell you, and because you're going to have to retire at some point from being a player. You are. It's
sadly.
Yeah, but you'll still be in hockey, because I think you've given us a great display of exactly what you can bring to the broadcast. You don't need any training, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny. My mom found something the other day when I was in school, and it said, "What would you want to do?" And I said, "Play the NHL, of course, whatever." And it was like a secondary thing, and it said sports journalism. So it was funny that I don't think I want to be a journalist or an insider by any means, because I don't think I'm good enough at that. But as an analyst, it's funny how it seems like as a kid, I don't know, I just used to sit there for hours and watch it. So for whatever reason, it just feels a little bit natural. And at the end of the day, I think you could tell by my enthusiasm, I love talking about hockey. So any chance I get to talk about hockey with, especially with people that love it just as much as me, I really enjoy it. So.
Well, John does not throw compliments like that. I can tell you that 100% hockey.
Well, we're going to start calling it the satellite hot Strome. So,
well done, John. What's the nickname? Stromes? Because
John
hates nicknames.
Stromer usually.
Stromer, okay.
It's kind of involved into Stromey the last couple of years. So either is good. But it's funny, you say satellite, the hot stove. So me and my brothers, last summer, the summer before, we actually recorded a podcast, an episode, just to see if we would like to do it. And my name was the hot stove. I don't know if there's some trademark on that, but we didn't end up doing it. I think as current players, the landscape is kind of, I don't think you could truly say what you want to say and you can give an opinion on everything. I think you'd have to stay in the middle a little bit too much for my liking.
Have you told Brady and Matthew that?
Well, you know what? I think, good for them for sticking their neck out. I think we just found that, I don't know, more so me, it was just, I don't know. There'll be a time and a place for all that stuff, but that was one of the names because, like I said, the hot stove, I know, John, you're a big part of that show for a long time, and Hockey Night in Canada. And we literally, we land on the plane, we go, who wants to have a hot stove tonight? That's what we call it. So it's kind of a funny name. So we're big Hockey Night in Canada fans, always have been, always will be. And that's why going on the show was so special for me.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. And enjoy Calgary after a nice summer to decompress.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Back with more on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Face Off Inside the NHL returns, taking you deeper behind the scenes than ever before. See it all from the star-studded Four Nations Face Off tournament
Us against the world, boys.
to the adrenaline of the Stanley Cup Playoffs.
I'm scared of you guys.
With candid interviews and backstage access, experience the sacrifice, the rivalries, and the determination that define NHL greatness.
Just when I thought last year couldn't be topped, here we are.
A new season of Face Off Inside the NHL. Watch now only on Prime Video.
I think that was a thrill for Ryan, for Strome.
Well, I see Ryan all summer long because I see him walking his kids around the neighborhood. So,
now do you go talk to him or you just give him a little tip of the cap?
Well, no. First of all, I'm going to have to give him a 100% hockey hat now.
Yeah.
After that, but no, I usually roll down the window and laugh at him because he's doing exactly what I used to do with my two kids. Walk them up to the train tracks and wave at the GO trains, so, but he's, we every once in a while we have a little conversation on the street. So
now the McLeods and the Stromes had this great connection over the years. Yeah. And it's all part of the neighborhood, right? All those kids were part of the neighborhood and everybody talks about it. So, yeah, no. And Ryan, I find it fascinating that living in Orange County as he does now, still comes home for the summer. It's a pretty good place to live. Good community, families here. So it's, the one thing to say with Ryan is he's got his head screwed on properly. I mean, that's something to be said. And there's little doubt in my mind that, if he has a 15 or 16 year career in the National Hockey League, he'll have a 26 or 27 year career as a broadcaster, which is I do appreciate Ryan dipping his toe into the broadcasting, and sounds like he's got a real enjoyment of it. Alec Martinez, who we talked about,
he's got a knack for it too. He's got a knack for it.
Marty loves. I love these guys. Alec Martinez with the AM Rewind and doing some broadcasting with Vegas. These guys that are at the end of their careers or retired still want to enjoy the game and be part of the game. Now, that doesn't happen with a lot of guys.
Well, no. A lot of guys do want to stay in the game. But it was a question that we asked early on with Ryan, is that you have to work at it still. This is not just sit on a chair and start talking. You do have to work at it. You do have to talk to people. You do have to watch tape.
Watch
games.
Yes, that's a Tortorellaism right there. Tape. The players are making fun of him because he called it tape, not video.
Well, John and I are about the same age, so. But you do, and the challenge becomes too, Daren, is every year you continue in broadcasting after you retire, you're farther away from the game, so you even have to work harder. Because all of a sudden, the first 2 years of any broadcaster are, if you make that decision and you can communicate, are really good. Because you're familiar with most of the players in the league still. And you can talk firsthand about what it was like to play against, Zach Whitecloud or Tyler Benson. Those are the types of things that occur on a regular basis. But it's when you're 5 or 6 years into your broadcasting career and there's nobody playing for a team you're doing that you played against. And so now you're at a disadvantage, and then you have to press, and then you have to work, and then you have to go talk to people and introduce yourself. And that's where a lot of players decide, you know what, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go in the visitor's dressing room. I don't want to go in a dressing room again in my life. Those are challenges. If you want to become a good broadcaster, you have to do in order to make it work.
Well, it's hard to go back into a dressing room or locker room, which was always the greatest place, and to go back in there as an outsider. That's the challenge. Yeah.
No question. But you have to fight through that.
Yeah.
You have to fight through that. And the other thing is that, players that are retiring now are retiring with millions of dollars in the bank. and the incentive to work hard is not near as much as it is that if you need to 25 years ago, you needed to have another job. After
that's where the Marty thing, the AM Rewind, he's doing those goal breakdowns on his own. Yeah. He's not making boatloads of cash on that. I don't know whether he's making any cash on it. He's just doing it because he enjoys doing it, and hopefully it leads somewhere. I should be his agent.
Aren't you?
Well, unofficially, I guess. I'm not making 10 points, I can tell you that.
No agent makes 10 points anymore.
Really?
No.
Entertainment agents don't make 10 points?
Oh, entertainment agents might make 20.
So you're right. You're absolutely right.
I was talking
getting back to the news that we were talking about off the top, Toronto, Vancouver, a little bit in Edmonton. So on the Berube front, just to wrap up that conversation, I think he might be relieved. I think Berube is like this has been a goat rodeo, my time here. Let's just all wash our hands and move on.
And he does have 2 years remaining.
Yeah.
So it's not as if he's being cast outside and never to work again. He can actually enjoy his life. I would not be surprised to see him to be back in Philadelphia in some manner, some way, with the Flyers.
He's pretty good on that bench with talk, wouldn't it?
Yeah. He might enjoy it. And
coaches brawl. Nobody's taking that team on.
No. That is a good point. But I just think that fresh start. Whether you agree with what MLSE is doing now or not, I think that they are better off by bringing somebody new in to work with this group of players. And because I'm not even sure, Darren, we're going to recognize the group of players by the 15th of July.
It all depends on number 34, right?
Yeah. And now, if you ask me today,
whenever we hear from him,
but if you ask me today, I think Austin Matthews plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs next year.
Okay, I'm taking the other way on that. I don't think he does, and I think he plays in the Western Conference.
But the caveat is that may change. That may change.
You can't offer caveats. No, you got to be all in. If we're gonna debate this thing.
Oh, there's no listen.
Sports talk radio.
No. It's 10% black, 10% white, 80% gray. I'm in the gray. I always like gray. Gray is the most effective color in television. So gray is good. But
Vancouver. Ryan Johnson appears to be
Ryan
guy.
Johnson's the man. He's the man. Yeah, Ryan Johnson, Daniel and Henrik are going to be senior executives on the hockey
side. Is it okay
side.
that I'm puzzled or slightly uncomfortable with the whole co-president thing? I know they're twins. I know they do everything together. It's just strange
when they're in the Hall of Fame together like that.
I know, but it's just.
I don't think
I've never seen anything like it before.
But we've never seen anything like the Sedins before. Period. Playing the game the way they play. We've never.
The Sutters didn't even run a whole organization.
Brian tried. Trust me, Brian in St. Louis. Brian tried. But you do wonder with Matt's getting the job in Toronto. Was there a residual effect of that with Daniel and Henrik? But Daniel and Henrik have been in the organization working in player development in Chilliwack, in Abbotsford, and working with Ryan Johnson a great deal. So this to me is, and people are going to get mad at me. This to me is the Canucks went out and beat the bushes, did their due diligence, and said, you know what? We have people inside that can do this job and do it better than anybody else we've talked to. And that's what's happened.
I'm not debating the Sedin's length of knowledge and ability. It's just strange. Dick, do they have one office? These are the things I think about. Do they have one office where the desks face each other? Or
it's funny you say that. So the first time I went into Pat Quinn's office in Vancouver at the old Coliseum. Pat was on one side, and there was another chair and on the same desk on the other side. Arthur Griffiths sat on the other side.
Really, the owner?
Well, he was the owner's son. His father, Frank, was owned the team, but Arthur was there working with Pat, and so they had dueling desks facing each other in Pat Quinn's office.
No.
So yeah, I guess
maybe
you can do that.
They'll bring it back. I wonder if it's like the presidential desk where it's just in storage and they'll bring it back out. The U.S. presidential desk.
I'm sure they got lots of desks in storage.
What about Edmonton? There's some rumblings going around.
Yeah, it's
I'm not sure how accurate all the reporting is. There's some stuff that's just been thrown out there, so I'm curious what you know.
I don't know very much. I've been, between what's going on in Toronto and Vancouver, and then watching hockey, I've kind of stayed away from the Oilers a little bit in the last little while. They weren't very happy with what went on. They weren't. The question becomes does ownership feel that somebody has to pay the price? And whether that's Chris Knobloch or someone else.
Well, I think this is all about having a great year next year and getting an extension signed.
No question. This is all
I don't think it's about last year at all.
Well, I mean, if the team had been successful and was still playing, Daren, then last year would not become an issue. Last year is an issue because based on what Leon and Connor said at their postseason press conferences. You
need a great year to get him in a positive frame to sign an extension.
Absolutely do. And in many ways, I think what Connor McDavid's going through is exactly what Austin Matthews is going through in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same conversation. That's why I think Connor will be back in Edmonton next year. And I think at this point, Austin Matthews will be back in Toronto. But they haven't spoken. They may not speak for another month because there's so much stuff that Chayka and Sundin have to do to get their organization in order. They may not speak for another month. So don't expect Austin Matthews to have a giant press conference at some golf course.
Well, if Austin Matthews mulling over his future, because he's got some control over this, he might decide to talk tomorrow to Toronto and say, where are we going here? Or ask, where are we going here?
That question will be asked, but it won't be in the next little while.
Why?
Because they're letting Chayka and Sundin reset.
The Matthews camp is.
Yeah. Reset what the organization looks like. How many assistant general managers are there going to be? What's their scouting staff?
Would Austin Matthews care about that?
I think there's lots of time to discuss the Matthews situation after the organization has been reset. Yes.
Because that sounds like something you want in place draft time.
Yeah,
if you're going to do something. So you're going
to the draft is 45 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying it'll be a month, I think.
Looking forward to the draft. Get my fix of the Buffalo Chop House.
Are you taking me there? You're going to take me to the Chop House?
If you're there, we get in the night before the draft. India Shea and I are part of our communications team with the Vegas Gold Knights. We're going to we're landing, we're dropping the bags off, and we're going straight to the Chop House.
I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there. I'm coming to the Chop House with you.
Okay.
I probably have to valet your car too.
No, we're Ubering.
Okay. But I'm coming to the Chop House
cars anymore. I rented cars with you one time, and you were crusty about navigation.
That was one of the greatest trips of all time. That was one of the greatest trips.
Do you remember what the theme of that trip was? This was what final was that?
2015.
Okay.
2015 because and we couldn't get flights into Tampa, so we had to fly to Orlando. So we drove from Orlando to Tampa.
Yeah.
And Dane, what's his name? The comedian.
Dane Cook.
Dane Cook, yeah. and you played Dane Cook on your phone, and I was laughing so hard I almost drove off the road.
Dane's due for another big tour.
That's right, though. That was right.
Oh, yeah.
You had a
Nexus.
time.
You had Nexus, and I didn't.
Folks, so here we are. We're at Orlando Airport. I have a Nexus card, which is the greatest gift any person can give you. And my friend Millard does not have Nexus. So I check in. I am sitting at breakfast outside the gate, enjoying my eggs and sausage and hash browns and rye toast. And Daren's 37 minutes late. I take a picture of my breakfast. I eat my breakfast. I'm at the gate, and Millard still is not there.
No.
And how you
I still don't have Nexus.
Well, you don't travel much anymore, but gosh,
no.
I needed it when I was working in New York. That was when I got it. It kept me sane.
The only travel I want to do is to go back to Manitoba, see the halfway tree. That's it.
We haven't talked about the halfway tree in at least a month. Unbelievable. Because the Jets haven't played in a month.
Thanks to Ryan Strome for stopping by. We'll talk to you next time. Enjoy the playoffs, everybody, on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shanny.